Hey, CARBO Brotherhood, this is design engineer Alvaro, and I'm going to show you guys how to install the Ruger-57 short stroke trigger and spring kit bundle. This product is compatible for the regular Ruger-57 and the Ruger-57 Pro. I'm going to show you what's in the package and why you should buy it. So the bundle comes with the short stroke trigger. It's an aluminum 6061 T6 CNC machine trigger with a set screw adjustment for the pre-travel. With it you can eliminate around 65% of the pre-travel without eliminating the factory safety mechanism. Apart from that, there is reduced over travel, which helps with reset, and a very nice flat trigger surface with a lip in the bottom. Makes it very easy to put your finger in the same spot all the time and be very repeatable when you shoot this firearm. Apart from this awesome trigger, we are offering a spring kit with every single spring responsible for the trigger pull weight reduction. From the previous LC carbine video, you might recognize some of the components. They're very similar, not exactly the same, but the Ruger-57 works somewhat similar to the LC carbine. So we wanted to give you guys an option to reduce that trigger pull weight in the Ruger-57. So we got this hammer spring, and we include the CNC machine hammer toggle. This is an OEM replacement that we make here in-house. We use the same geometry, but we decided to use better materials. This is hardened 17.4. It gives a very nice polished surface for the hammer toggle to push on the hammer. I'm going to show you guys later what I'm talking about. This enables to use our hammer spring that significantly reduces trigger pull weight. We also include a sear spring, a trigger return spring, a firing pin spring, which has to be coupled with the hammer spring, two fixtures, one for the sear spring installation and one for the firing pin spring installation. It has been custom made to make the installation of the firing pin spring very easy. Without it, it's kind of challenging. Okay, let's put all these products apart and start with the Ruger-57 field strip. We're going to take an initial trigger pull weight to see where we stand and how much we can improve the firearm. First thing always, guys, clear the firearm, check the chamber, the magazine well, and the breech face. This firearm is clear and we can start with the trigger pull weights. £3 pounds, 12 ounces. We get an average of around 3 pounds, 11 ounces, 12 ounces. This firearm has been heavily shot, so the surface is already polished. So the firearm kind of drops around 1 pound, close to 1 pound from OEM. So when we got this firearm, it was around 4.5 pounds. And most of you guys are probably sitting around the 4 pounds range. Okay, let's put all these products apart and start with the Ruger-57. For this installation, we're going to use punches, 1/16 punch, 3 32 punch, and 1/8 punch. It's also a good idea to have a 1/16 roll pin punch. Thread locker, blue 242 is the best bet. Hammer, bench block, and safety glasses. You can purchase the hammer, bench block, and punches in our website. First step is to tap the takedown lever. We're going to use a 1/8 punch for this. You can also use a 3 32, it doesn't really matter because there's not much force required, but a 1/8 punch fits in perfectly there. I'm just going to tap it lightly until the takedown lever is out of the firearm. After that, you can take the slide off by rocking back and forth. Now we're left with the lower and the slide. We're going to put the slide on the other side so we can focus on the lower. To disassemble the lower, tap. This retaining pin is a plastic pin. You can use again the 1/8 punch, position it in the bench block, start slowly, and then you can hammer away. Okay, that's out. After that, hold the fire control insert. This is how Ruger calls the fire control unit, right? We're just gonna hold it and slowly release it. I put my finger here on the trigger bar because this trigger bar is held by tension and I don't want it to just jump. So I slowly take it out. And now I'm gonna put this frame on the side too. Now, very careful to release this trigger bar slowly because the trigger return spring pushes the trigger bar and it may pop out. Very slowly release it. There you go. And to extract the trigger bar, we're going to shake it around the sear until it's free to move. There you go. The next step is going to, well, that's the next step. You're just going to twist around and the hammer and hammer pin are going to jump out. This pin also locates here. It just drops right in, so it will also fall apart. Let's put these parts on the side too, because we're gonna work on the sear first. The slide catch also comes out pretty easily. Just pull to the right side. There's also a spring tension in it, so release it slowly. We're doing pretty good. The next step is going to release the trigger so we can work easily on the sear. To release the trigger, there's a trigger pivot pin that holds everything together. There's two ways of doing this. The easy way is just to turn the FCU around, push the trigger forward, and kind of tap it around. There you go. That was the easy way. There's a harder way, which is to extract that roll pin that holds the safety and then use a punch to push this pin out from the bottom. To be honest, most of the time, the first trick works and you don't have to do the second trick, but the second trick works all the times. This is the trigger return spring, trigger pivot, and the trigger pivot pin. Okay, let's put that on the side too. To disassemble the safety mechanism, we're gonna push this lever upwards very slowly, and I'm gonna keep my finger on top of this section here. There's a part called safety detent plunger and its spring, and this thing is under tension. If we just let it go, it's gonna shoot around the room and you won't see it again. So I'm going to put my finger here, and at the same time I'm just going to push this lever upwards and then just drop all the parts. So this is what I was talking about: the rocker, the safety detent, plunger, and the spring. So we're going to put this to the side too. The next thing will be to extract the hammer from the fire control insert, and that's very easy. We're just going to get this pin, this section, and pull to the left, and the hammer will just drop out. This is the toughest part of the installation. Customers that bought the LC carbine spring kit will be very familiar with this roll pin. Out of factory, it comes in pretty tight. It depends on the firearm, but some of them are very hard to punch out without a roll pin punch, and use a hard surface like the concrete. All the energy from the hammer gets transferred from the punch to the roll pin, and nothing gets dampened. This one's slightly thicker than a 1/16 punch, but it's gonna help me start that roll pin. And after I start it, I can use my 1/16 punch and drive it all the way. I'm gonna use my left hand to push the fire control insert downwards. With my right hand, I'm gonna hit that roll pin until I see some movement. It looks like it's starting to move. That roll pin is already past flush. It's very easy to locate. And now I'm just gonna drive that roll pin all the way through. There you go. Came out. Once we have that roll pin out, we can pull on the right safety lever and then on the left one. This one is holding the sear and the sear spring, so slowly take it apart and then take the sear and the sear spring. Okay, congratulations, we made it all the way through the complete disassembly and we're ready to install our new CARBO parts. This is the fun part. This is a sear spring, OEM sear spring. We're going to compare it with the CARBO sear spring. Same geometry, slightly thinner, but it's slightly weaker and allows less force on the sear without compromising safety. This is the, if you guys can see, this is the orientation of the sear spring in relation to the sear. These long legs are going to point downwards and are going to sit on this section of the fire control insert. To secure both parts together, we're going to use the rod, put it through the spring and the sear. This is going to make it way easier to install it in the fire control insert. Our bench block is going to serve as our third arm in this operation. We're going to drop that sear from the top. This long leg of the sear is going to drop under this section of the fire control unit, and the legs are going to sit here. We're going to align all those components together with the hole in the fire control insert. Now I'm going to twist it around. Check for alignment and use that punch to locate it in there. Shake the parts around until we can push that sear tool out. Perfect. Now we can take the bench block out of the way. Now let's check for operation. That sear is returning. It means the spring is perfectly seated. Now we're going to put that left safety lever through the sear. To do that, we're going to push from the right side, but it's the left side of the firearm. We're going to push from the right side. I'm going to use my left arm to put some pressure on the punch and just push that left safety lever through the sear. There you go. Now we're ready to put the right safety lever. It has a specific geometry, so you have to match it with the geometry from the left safety lever. This allows perfect alignment between both safety levers. Perfect. Now it's the turn for that roll pin. We're going to do everything but in reverse. I'm going to locate that roll pin into the hole in the right safety lever and use my roll pin punch. It's going to help me locate and avoid pushing that roll pin out of the way like I just did. Let's put it up. Okay. I'm going to use my left hand to locate. Start tapping. Use my right arm. We're using some nice gentle taps. There you go. Keep going until that roll pin is flush with the right safety lever. Should be easier than the disassembly because that roll pin is already compressed. Now we have both safety levers assembled with the sear and the sear spring. We're going to assemble the hammer. This section is going to point outwards, so this section is going to go in first. We're gonna get the hammer and assemble it from the bottom. Align both components until you can see through. And now drop the hammer pin. There you go. If you push the hammer back, it will lock with the sear. The same hammer pin is used to locate the safety rocker. This is how the safety rocker is going to locate on that pin. You guys check out this orientation. So this cutout on the sheet metal is going to point towards the back of the fire control insert. After that, we're just going to push it up and mate it with this arm of the right safety lever. Slowly push that safety lever down and check operation. Looks like it's working fine. Keep it engaged like that and just twist it around. The next components to assemble are going to be the safety detent plunger and the safety detent plunger spring. I like to hold that rocker with my left arm. You can also use tape. We're going to drop that spring into the spring hole and then the detent. That detent is in. So we're going to push the lever down against the detent and use a 3/32 punch or a 1/8 punch to depress that detent down and click it in. Check for operation now. The safety mechanism and the sear is now assembled, and we're ready to go to the different components of the fire control insert. It's now time to assemble the CARBO trigger. The CARBO trigger comes with a 440 set screw. This set screw will determine how much pre-travel we eliminate from the pistol, up to 65% pre-travel reduction. I'm going to show you guys how to maximize this reduction, but then you guys can just screw in this set screw into the trigger and increase the pre-travel if you guys desire that. Get some blue Loctite. We use blue 242 Loctite and throw in just a small dab there. I like to put the set screw into the Allen key already and just get some blue Loctite into the threads of the set screw. We're just going to screw in the set screw pretty much all the way in. I'm going to tell you how to do it later to maximize the pre-travel reduction. I'm going to use one of our rags to clean any excess Loctite from the table and from the trigger. We're going to now assemble the CARBO trigger into the fire control insert. So the first component to go in is going to be the trigger. It just drops in right there. And then we're going to get the trigger pivot and assemble it with the arm pointing upwards, like that. Okay, now it's sort of secure. Now it's the turn of the CARBO trigger return spring. To assemble it, we're going to point with this arm towards 5 o'clock more or less, right there. To secure everything together, we're going to get the trigger pivot pin and drop it from the top. To do this, we have to align all three components like that. Check that that hole is aligned with all three components, and then just drop that pivot pin and push it with a punch like that. Check that everything's together. Once we have the trigger assembly inside the fire control insert, we're going to maximize the pre-travel reduction. So that set screw sits in the front of the trigger and will stop in the fire control insert in this section of it. So we can reduce that pre-travel until this set screw won't be able to surpass this cutout. This has been purposely done to avoid the disengagement of the safety mechanism. So I'm going to start by doing small increments until I cannot push the trigger, rotate the trigger upwards, meaning that I did it too much. Right now it can still go up, but it's very close. If I keep going outwards, I feel like I'm gonna contact the fine control insert. Looks like I'm still good. And now I'm not good. If you guys can see, right now the set screw is not passing the fire control insert. So I'm just gonna screw it back in. And that's it, guys. This is where we want to sit for that 65% pre-travel reduction. Make sure you guys leave this to sit for around 24 hours so the Loctite can harden and it won't move. We're ready to go to the next component. Now it's the turn for the hammer spring and the hammer toggle. These components are replacing the OEM hammer spring. The OEM hammer spring is slightly different. When we were developing the spring kit, we actually found some problems by using this method. For this particular spring, which is the OEM, there's no issues because it's very stiff, which causes a very high triple weight. As you reduce that stiffness of the spring, it causes problems. So we came with this solution, which is a similar component to the Ruger LC carbine hammer toggle. We made it out of hardened 17.4. So let's proceed with the installation. There's a geometry, there's a cutout in the hammer toggle that matches the spring. So we're gonna orient it this way and then drop it into the hammer with this section of the hammer toggle pointing forward. I'm going to push the hammer spring pin all the way. And now I'm going to test for tension with the hammer. Looks like it's working. Right now I'm just pushing on the sear forward, releasing the hammer by pushing on the hammer spring and checking for any potential issues, but it looks like it's working fine. Okay, so we have installed the sear, the trigger return spring, and the hammer spring. We only have two things left on the fire control insert, and that's the trigger bar and the slide catch and slide catch spring. We're going to start with the slide catch spring. What I do is I put my finger here on the hammer spring pin so it doesn't fall out as I twist it, and locate the slide catch spring on that hole. This is the orientation for the slide catch spring. Then I'm going to get the slide catch, locate this pivot pin on this hole, and then make sure that this arm of the spring rests on that arm of the slide catch. Then just click everything in. Okay, I twist it vertically now. This thing kind of holds together, but I also like to hold it with my right hand so it doesn't pop out. Okay, last step is the trigger bar. For the trigger bar, we're gonna slide it under the sear this way and locate the trigger bar and mate the trigger bar with the trigger pivot. After that, I'm going to tension the trigger return spring on the trigger bar like that. Now I'm going to hold everything together with my right hand, pushing on the trigger return spring, the trigger bar, and the slide catch. So everything's put together. I'm going to release the hammer so the tension on the hammer spring is not as much. And I'm ready to put everything together in the frame. The way this thing drops in is this way. There's a cutout here on the fine control insert that's going to mate with this geometry in the grip module. I'm going to angle it, mate it with that geometry, hold it with my left hand, and then depress the trigger so it fits through the hole in the frame. Once this is in, I'm going to get the pin, this is called barrel pin, and drop it in there. Now everything's ready to be pushed into the frame. There you go. To secure everything together, I'm going to get the retaining pin and just tap it with the plastic side of the hammer until it's flush with the frame. Okay, perfect. We're going to check for function of the hammer before we proceed. You can already tell the reduction in trigger pull weight. It's phenomenal. To finish the lower, we're going to get the takedown pin located in this hole, like that. This V is going to be pointing upwards. And then push on the safety lever and on this arm at the same time until it clicks in. Okay, we have finished with the lower, and now it's time to work on the upper. The first step with the upper is going to be release the recoil spring, take the barrel out, put those away. Once we have the barrel and the recoil assembly out, we can work on the firing pin. There's a small set screw here that needs to be disassembled. We're going to use a 1/16 Allen key for that. This set screw has thread locker from the factory, so it might be tight at the beginning. And screw it all the way. There you go. Put it on the side. And now it's the time for our firing pin fixture. This section of this hole is going to go towards the firing pin right there. And it's going to sit this way. The shape of the fixture mates with the shape of the slide right here. Right there. With a roll pin or even a 1/16 punch, we can now hammer this roll pin out. There you go, that roll pin is out. The firing pin sometimes gets stuck, and what we have to do is push it out with a 1/16 punch. So what I do is put a 1/16 punch through the breech face and just lightly tap it. There you go. That was easy. We're gonna now replace this spring with a CARBO spring. Now just drop the CARBO spring on the firing pin and drop both components into the firing pin channel. Make sure the firing pin cutout is oriented with the whole location of the roll pin, so we can put everything back together. Another thing that happens when you put both parts together into the slide is that you'll try to push it in, but you'll encounter some resistance. So using the fixture, we're going to locate it in the slide the same way we did previously, and then just hammer the fixture until the firing pin fits into the channel. I'm going to use a 1/16 punch to check alignment between the firing pin and the slide. If it goes through, it means we're good to go. To reassemble the firing pin roll pin. Okay, let's locate it like that from the bottom of the slide. We're going to use our 1/16 roll pin punch again and hammer away. Okay, hammer it until it's flush with the slide. The fixture is not needed anymore. We're going to check the firing pin function. Push in with the punch and observe that the firing pin tip is protruding through the breech face. So that's awesome. It's working as it should. Let's turn the slide around. And we're going to assemble that set screw back into the slide with the 1/16 Allen key. There you go. You can put some blue Loctite if you wish, but that thing is pretty secure there. Let's put the barrel and the recoil assembly. This section of the recoil assembly with the hole goes forward. Let's depress it. We have now finished the upper assembly and the lower assembly. To put everything together, we're going to keep this takedown pin looking, this arrow pointing to 2 o'clock. And we're going to align the barrel vertically so it sits center in the slide. If this thing is not center, you won't be able to put it in to the lower. Once this is aligned and we got the correct position of the takedown pin, we can assemble both parts together by mating this geometry into the cutout here in the slide. Just gonna mate it like that. We're gonna rack it and lock the slide back. We're gonna push the barrel back, all the way back like that, and then we're gonna rotate counterclockwise the takedown pin and push it in until it clicks. Now we can release the slide, and the firearm is ready to be dry fired. Now I'm excited to see the trigger pull weight reduction with this new setup. We're going to do again 5 pulls. And I'm going to locate the gauge in the top lip of the trigger, as I did before. 2 pounds and 3 ounces, guys. 2 pounds, 5 ounces. 2 pounds, 4 ounces. 2 pounds, 5 ounces. Let's go final one. So there you have it, guys. This firearm is now sitting between 2 pounds and 2 pounds and 5 ounces, which is very light. It suits very well this caliber, and man, I don't know what to say. With the pre-travel, this reduction, 65% reduction, it's really easy to place my finger in the trigger, make every shot repeatable, make good follow-up shots, and be very precise. We have a pre-travel reduction and a nice aluminum 6061 trigger to place our finger all the way down and obtain a very feather-light and crispy trigger. Thanks for watching, and if you're having any trouble, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. And if you guys want an installation, we also do the installation for the Ruger-57 trigger and spring kit.